There are some downright scary things about living in Alaska that might not get a whole lot of attention, but just with the time of year being what it is, this seems like a really good time to talk about the scariest things about living in Alaska. My name is Jamin Goecker. I'm a realtor in South Central Alaska, and my mission is to help you to build an intentional and significant legacy for yourself and your family by coaching you in real estate. And today we're going to be talking about some things about Alaska that may or may not get your heart rate up a little bit when you're actually living up here. Before we get started though, do make sure you give this video a like, subscribe if you haven't done so already, and let's go and jump into today's video. Now, the first thing that I would say here, we're talking about the scary things about living up here in Alaska, is going to be the bear and the moose. So everybody understands why the bear is scary. Usually bears are just not going to be a problem up here as long as you are being loud, you're practicing good trail etiquette, making sure that you really do understand, everything about bears, loud, you have bear spray, you've got maybe some kind of small firearm in case like everything goes sideways as like a very last ditch effort. A lot of people aren't aware of just how dangerous moose are though. So they are walking horses with sharp hooves and horns. And sometimes they spook really easily. If you get between a mother and its calf, that's going to be bad news for you. Yeah, moose can be pretty dangerous too, not just if you're out on a trail, but moose are more likely to just amble out onto a road, and to hit that thing going at highway speed, it's going to be a bad day. Okay, if you're driving a smaller car, that's going to be totaled. Yeah, your car is probably going to be totaled first off, and you might be lucky if you can survive that impact. If you're driving a bigger vehicle, truck or something like that, it's still going to be a bad day. I don't think it might not be life-threatening depending on what you're driving. But if you're driving something smaller and you hit a moose, that's going to be bad news. So, when you're out here driving on the roads, especially the highways, you kind of have to keep an eye on what's going on the side of the road just to make sure there are no moose around because, you don't want to hit a horse. That it's not going to end well for you. The second scary thing about living up here in Alaska is going to be kind of the narrow roads and the traffic. So this might not sound like something that's necessarily scary until you start realizing all the traffic that is going to be going on these roads. And there's one in particular, Goose Bay Road. And on this particular road, you get a lot of people that, live on either direction as you're driving down this road. And, this was just fine when the population was a lot lower. Now we've got a lot more people here. And the issue is, if you've got a lot of turnoffs, the road is going 55 miles per hour, and you get a lot of people, they're slamming on their brakes to make a hard right or left turn, then somebody just not paying attention to the road for a split second can be kind of scary. Okay, that can obviously create a lot of pileups and a lot of wrecks out there on that road and other roads like it. So for that reason, yeah, some of the roads can be a little scary for that reason. And then you've got potholes here and there, and they're basic road maintenance stuff. But yeah, that's mainly the big thing. Actually, over at Goose Bay Road, they are actually expanding the road out in the next couple of years, so that's going to make that a lot safer. The third scary thing about living in Alaska is that there are earthquakes. And if you are somebody that is going to be adverse to having the earth move beneath you, and that's really going to create some trauma, Alaska might not be a great place to live long term. It sounds like it's something that'd be super unnerving. After you kind of get used to it, you get a little blasé about it. Unless it's like a big earthquake, like a 6-point something, 7-point something, you're usually just not going to notice it very much. It's really not going to register for you. But the thing about earthquakes is there is no season for earthquakes. It's not like, okay, in the springtime, we've got this 3-4 month period where we're going to have earthquakes, and that's just not the case. It can be any time of the year. So it's just something you kind of have to get used to. Let's take a break real quick. If you've been watching this channel for any amount of time, you do know that I focus primarily on the South Central Alaska area. And while that's going to remain the case moving forward, we are actually going to be partnering with our colleagues across the entire state to bring you market updates for what's going on inside the markets of each one of the big market centers here in the state of Alaska, looking at Fairbanks, Kenai, Homer, Kodiak, and Juneau/the Southeast area. So this is going to be a very exciting project called the Trailblazer Project. I've not seen this done in any other state before, where we are bringing you all the market updates for the entire state under the roof of one channel. So this is going to be a lot of fun. So when you guys are seeing market updates coming from people who aren't just me on the channel, you know what's going on there. If you guys are really nice then we might actually be able to convince some of these folks to actually provide some more content and talk specifically about what it's like living in their market. So when you see these videos pop up, make sure to jump over there, give them plenty of likes, plenty of love, give them lots of comments, and yeah, just know that that's fulfilling kind of the mission we still have on the YouTube channel to help you build an intentional and significant legacy for yourself and your family by coaching you in real estate, whether that be in South Central Alaska or anywhere else in Alaska that we have our colleagues in at the moment. So just want to make you aware of that, and let's go and finish today's video. This one to me is really scary, and that's because of a story associated with it I'm going to be talking about in just a second. And that is mudflats. Now, what mudflats are is the tide's going to come in, it's going to go out, and what you're left with, this really muddy ground out there that's got a lot of silt in it from the glaciers. And it looks really innocent, just looks like normal mud. But once you start walking around on it, it actually like suctions in on your foot. So if you are walking around on the mudflats and you stay still for a period of time, let's say a couple minutes, like it's got a death suction on your feet. And this doesn't sound too bad until you realize, hey, the tide's going to come back in. There actually was a story years and years and years ago where somebody got stuck out there, and don't want to get too graphic, but yes, the lady who was stuck out there did end up dying, and it was pretty dramatic. And if you're a local child here who grew up here, you're going to hear this story a lot. And that's why if you're grown up here or spent any amount of time up here, you're going to know, hey, leave the mudflats alone, don't touch them. Let's take a break real quick here. For those of you who've been watching for a while, you'll know that I host the Alaskan Journey podcast. Link for that is going to be in the description section down below. But what I do in that podcast is I interview people who have recently moved up here and people who have lived up here for a while and talk to them about their experiences of living up here on the last frontier. Also, I have a copy of the relocation guide for those of you who are considering moving up here. So do go check that out in the description section down below. Make sure you register to my website and put relocation guide in the little comment section so I know what to send you. Now, let's go and finish today's video talking about the scariest things about living in Alaska. Now, this next one, it's kind of related to the earthquakes a little bit, and that is tsunamis. And certain parts of the state, obviously, that are bordering up against the ocean, you're going to have some opportunities for tsunamis. Now, these aren't particularly common. You might get one or two here and there, but by and large, you're just not going to see a whole lot of these big tsunamis. The city of Seward, they definitely got flattened back in, I think it was 64, 68. Terrible Alaska historian there, but I believe it was back in 68 where the entire town just got leveled by a tsunami. And you get other places like down in Homer and these other oceanfront communities where they're going to have kind of a threat of having tsunamis come through just because they are next to the ocean. So while you're down there, you're going to see a lot of signs talking about evacuations in case that does happen. So that can be a scary thing. So you just want to make sure that you're cognizant and aware of what those are and where you're at. Another scary thing about living in Alaska, there's definitely a higher crime rate up here. I've talked about this quite a bit before, but crime rate and total number of crimes, not the same thing. And even make sure you check the area that you're currently in and the area that you're looking at moving into on a crime map, just to give you a better sense for what you might be comfortable with. And also the homeless population in certain areas is starting to become a little much, and that's likely not to end anytime soon because people in certain areas are making it more comfortable to be homeless than it was before. This one you probably wouldn't think of as very much, and it's not something that impacts us too much from day to day, but there are volcanoes up here in Alaska, which, not entirely surprising. We are in the Ring of Fire where there's a lot of earthquakes and there's a lot of volcanoes. For most Alaskans, you're just never going to see any of these volcanoes. You can kind of see them from a distance if you're down on the Kenai, but by and large, you're not going to be seeing volcanoes on a day-to-day basis. And last but not least, if you get the creepy crawlies and you're not really liking the way the slugs look, then leeches are probably not going to be a great thing you want to talk about. Alaskans don't really swim in the lakes very much, partly because, it's going to be cold. It's very rare the water gets warm enough to where it's actually fun and comfortable to jump in. But also, we've got leeches in the water. So not a great end of the day where you get out of the water and see like big old fat leech just latched onto your arm that's been taking you to the blood bank for the past couple of hours. So not great. Wouldn't recommend that. For a lot of people, that gives them creepy crawlies. So, know what you're getting into if you're jumping into a lake. So I sure hope this has been useful for you. You guys have a great Halloween. Let me know if you have any questions, and we'll see you next time.